An alien Empress hid as a servant to test her forced human husband, but he knew her soul. Daniel Carter woke to the soft hum of his apartment lights. The city outside was already alive, but inside, the room was quiet and calm. He stretched and looked around. Life had been simple lately, after years of rescue missions in the outer colonies. His apartment was not fancy, but it was tidy and full of small comforts. A coffee machine hissed as it warmed water. He poured himself a cup and walked to the window. The skyline glimmered with the first rays of the sun. Today, like many days, he would check on his neighbors, fix small problems, and maybe read a book in the evening. He liked the quiet routines. They made him feel grounded after years of chaos. Little did he know, today would bring a change far bigger than any mission he had flown. The knock at the door was soft, polite. Daniel frowned slightly. No one usually knocked at this hour. He set down his cup and opened the door. Standing there was a young woman. Her uniform was simple, plain, a servant's uniform from one of the city districts. Her hair was tied neatly, her eyes bright and careful. She smiled politely. "Good morning," she said. Her voice was calm, soft, but something about it made Daniel feel that she was more than she appeared. "Good morning," he replied. "Can I help you?" "I have been assigned to work here," she said. "I am to assist you with your household needs." Daniel blinked. Okay. "Come in." He stepped aside. There was a pause as she stepped over the threshold. She looked around, eyes careful, noticing details without seeming intrusive. The way she moved, the small precision in her steps, the way she balanced her hands, it was almost perfect. "My name is Lyra," she said, bowing her head slightly. "I will do my best to serve you." Daniel nodded. "I'm Daniel Carter. Thank you for coming." He thought about it as she began to move around, tidying small things. She did not speak much, but she noticed everything. When he picked up a cup he had forgotten to wash, she silently took it and rinsed it. When he glanced at a stack of books, she adjusted them neatly. Daniel felt an odd calm in her presence. It was not the obedience of a normal servant. She seemed aware. More aware than anyone he had ever met, he decided to test her lightly. "So, Lyra, do you have experience with cooking?" "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I can prepare meals. Whatever you prefer, I can learn quickly." "Good," Daniel said, smiling. "Then you can start with breakfast." He went to wash his hands. She followed silently, and he noticed how she moved with care, almost like she was measuring everything in the air, even things he did not notice. Over breakfast, she waited quietly, serving tea and simple food, her eyes polite but attentive. Daniel watched her. There was something in the way she observed him, not just watching but understanding. It made him feel both curious and slightly unsettled. "You seem careful," he said finally. "You notice a lot." She paused, then nodded. "I like to understand my surroundings. It helps me serve better." Daniel smiled. He did not know why, but he felt a trust growing already. He liked that she did not speak too much, but she spoke enough. Small gestures told him she was thinking deeply, not just following instructions. The day passed slowly, yet it was different from any day he had experienced in a long time. He went about his routines. He checked a neighbor's air filter, helped repair a broken comm unit, and when he returned, Lyra had cleaned and prepared small meals. She even left fresh water for his plants, carefully adjusting sunlight. He noticed the way she paused when she thought he was not looking. The small flickers of expression, almost like she carried a weight in her heart. He did not know what it was, but it drew his attention. He had been around people who hid emotions before, but not like this. It felt like she was guarding something powerful inside. "Lyra," he said in the evening, "you don't seem like a normal servant. You are careful and strong in small ways. I notice it." She froze for a moment, then lowered her gaze. "I only wish to do my duty well," she said softly. He did not press further. He understood the answer was meant to hide more than reveal. Yet he felt that he already knew more than he should. He could not explain why, but something about her felt familiar, like meeting someone long thought lost or distant. The next morning, the city awoke to a warning siren. Daniel frowned. Sirens were rare unless something serious happened. He grabbed a small comm device and ran to the window. A minor energy storm was forming above the city. The hum of power fields flickered. People were evacuating slowly, calmly, and yet some were panicked. Lyra was already moving with him. She guided him gently, keeping close but not controlling. Her hands brushed his shoulder once, almost as a warning. Daniel glanced at her. She did not look scared. She looked alert, powerful in a way he could feel but not name. "Stay close to me," she said quietly. He nodded. He did not need to tell her anything. Instinctively, he followed her direction. Together, they moved through streets where small debris floated in the air. She helped guide the elderly and children to safe areas. Her strength was visible in her careful movements. She lifted fallen objects without effort, shielded others with her body in a precise and calm way. Daniel was stunned. She was not human, he realized. The speed, the strength, the awareness, nothing he had seen in humans matched it, yet she never flaunted it. She used it only when necessary. After the storm passed, the city sighed in relief. Minor damage, a few injured but mostly safe. Daniel helped where he could, but he noticed how Lyra quietly took care of everyone around them. She even repaired some broken comm lines faster than any maintenance drone. That night, as they returned to his apartment, Daniel sat with her and asked simply, "Who are you, really?" She looked at him carefully. Her eyes reflected a storm of thoughts. She did not lie, but she also did not reveal all. "I am Lyra," she said. "I am your servant, nothing more." He smiled gently. "Maybe, but I see more. I think you let me see small pieces of who you are." "It is enough for now." She froze slightly, surprised by the calm acceptance in his voice. In her world, people demanded answers, demanded loyalty. Here, he trusted her without knowing everything. The thought confused her deeply. Over the next days, the bond grew. Daniel continued his quiet life, and Lyra quietly served, but they shared small moments. A look that meant understanding. A gesture that showed care. Small conversations in the evenings about simple things, books, meals, memories of past cities. She listened more than she spoke. He spoke softly, carefully, never demanding. One afternoon, a minor council representative visited. He was sent to observe the human household. The man was polite but probing. Daniel welcomed him, treated him well, offered food. Lyra moved quietly in the background. She did not reveal her full nature, but her presence was noticed. The council representative made notes, mostly about her efficiency, her silence, her calm strength. Daniel noticed the way she shifted slightly when the man looked at her. She was careful. He did not need to ask questions. He already knew she was hiding more than she showed. He did not judge. He simply observed and let her act freely. That night, as the lights dimmed in the apartment, Lyra finally admitted something to herself. She had intended to judge humans, to test them, to see weakness and fear. Instead, she found strength. She found patience, quiet courage, and a humanity she had never expected. And most troubling of all, she found a human who already knew her soul, even when she hid it. Daniel sat near the window, looking at the city lights. Lyra silently arranged the dishes and tidied the room. She hesitated, then glanced at him. He met her eyes and nodded, as if to say he already understood everything she had yet to show. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt uncertain, not about power, not about victory, but about herself. She wondered if she could keep the control she thought she needed. She wondered if she even wanted to. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, two lives had quietly intertwined. One human, one alien, both carrying secrets, both learning something unexpected. Trust was not given by law or power, but by understanding and care. And in that small, quiet apartment, a story began that would change not only their lives, but the future of a galaxy that believed it knew what strength really meant. The morning light crept into Daniel's apartment once again. The city outside was alive with movement. Traders moved through the streets, delivery drones zipped between buildings, and children's laughter floated from playgrounds. Inside, Daniel was already awake, preparing a simple breakfast. Lyra moved silently behind him, arranging plates and cups. Her movements were smooth, precise, and careful. She had learned the rhythm of his life quickly, and she adapted without effort. Daniel noticed small changes. She carried herself differently than any human servant. Her gaze lingered just a moment too long on the skyline. She noticed details he had never seen. The way the sunlight touched the edge of the balcony, the patterns of dust in the air, the quiet movements of neighbors. It was as if she saw everything and yet said nothing. "You are very aware," he said, breaking the morning silence. He poured coffee into his cup and offered her a small nod. "I notice what is important," Lyra replied. Her voice was calm, but there was something hidden beneath it, a strength she did not show. He smiled. "I think you notice more than just what is important. Sometimes it feels like you notice me." She froze slightly, caught off guard. She did not expect him to say that. She glanced down, pretending to adjust a plate. "I only observe," she said quietly. Daniel laughed softly. "I know, but observation tells a lot. It tells me a lot about who you are." Lyra did not answer. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a sensation she had never known in her long life. Her species did not feel emotions the same way humans did. They controlled everything carefully. Yet this human, this simple human, saw more than she revealed. And it was not judgment. It was understanding. Later that day, Daniel went to check on some neighbors who needed help repairing minor systems after the storm. Lyra accompanied him, not as a servant but as a quiet companion. She did not speak much, but she stayed close, watching, guiding silently. When a small group of children ran into the street distracted by the flashing drones, she quickly moved, scooping one of them out of harm's way without any alarm. The child barely noticed the danger. Daniel watched, impressed but not surprised. He had already sensed her abilities, even if he did not yet understand them fully. "You are strong," he said as they walked back to the apartment. "I am only careful," she replied. "Carefulness is strength too," he said, "sometimes stronger than power." Her eyes lingered on him. He did not realize how much his words affected her. He spoke as if he had known her forever, as if he understood the hidden parts of her soul that she had tried to conceal from everyone. It was unsettling and comforting at the same time. That evening, as the city lights twinkled like stars, Lyra prepared dinner. She cooked with skill, but she also observed Daniel, noting the small habits of his life. The way he tapped his fingers when he thought, the way he smiled at the memories he shared aloud, the quiet patience he showed to the world. She began to realize that this human, unlike any she had met, was strong in ways that her empire often overlooked. After dinner, they sat quietly in the living room. Daniel read from a small book while Lyra tidied. He looked up and spoke softly. "Lyra, why did you hide from me? Why not reveal who you really are?" She paused, holding a plate in her hands. "Because I had to know you first. I had to understand humans, and perhaps I had to protect myself." He nodded. He did not press further. Instead, he said, "I understand. Hiding can be necessary sometimes, but it is also a risk. Sometimes hiding makes trust harder to find." She looked at him, surprised by his insight. He spoke with calm understanding, not judgment. He did not demand answers. He did not try to control her. He simply accepted the truth that she was ready to give. That simple acceptance shook her more than any confrontation could. The next morning brought new challenges. Minor alerts from the city's council warned of disturbances nearby. Some humans panicked and others stayed calm. Daniel moved quickly, helping where he could. Lyra followed, guiding, protecting, and observing. She did not act to show power but to ensure safety. Her presence alone calmed the fearful. At one point, a small accident threatened a street market. A fallen power line sparked near civilians. Daniel rushed forward instinctively. Lyra moved faster. She grabbed his arm, pulling him out of the way, and with a single motion, she redirected the power safely. The people nearby were confused and frightened, but no one was harmed. Daniel stood beside her, catching his breath, and looked at her. "You are not human," he said softly, almost as if stating a fact he had known all along. "I am what I appear to be," she said, keeping her voice calm. Yet inside she felt the truth pressing at her lips. She was more than she had revealed, and he already knew it. He smiled gently. "I don't need to know everything to trust you. Sometimes understanding is enough." That evening they returned to the apartment. Daniel cleaned minor scrapes and bruises he had gotten from the street. Lyra assisted quietly, her hands careful, her touch gentle but precise. She noticed the small gestures he made, the way he worked without complaint, the way he cared for others even when tired. It was a quiet heroism, the kind humans often overlooked. Over the next days, their routine grew. Lyra learned not just the habits of the household, but the habits of Daniel's heart. She noticed the quiet kindness in his actions, the empathy he carried, the courage that was silent but strong. She realized that humans, despite their fragility, had a strength that her empire had never understood. One afternoon, a council envoy visited. He was a young human, sent to assess the household. He watched Lyra carefully, noting her efficiency, her quiet strength, and her skill in managing the apartment. He also noted the calm presence of Daniel, who treated both of them with respect. After the envoy left, Daniel and Lyra sat in the quiet apartment. The air was warm, the sun soft through the windows. "Do they suspect anything?" Daniel asked. "Not yet," Lyra said. She paused. "But I fear the day will come when hiding will be impossible." He nodded. "Sometimes it is better to be known. But sometimes it is better to be understood without words." Lyra looked at him, feeling a strange emotion she could not name. Humans felt things deeply, and she had seen courage, fear, and love all in a single glance. She wondered if she could ever feel that too. She wondered if she wanted to. The days turned into weeks. Small challenges tested their bond. Minor crises in the city, mechanical failures, and personal trials arrived, each revealing the quiet strength of both human and alien. Lyra learned to act without showing force, to guide without controlling, and to care without revealing all. Daniel learned to trust what he could see, to act when needed, and to understand when silence was the answer. One evening, as the stars appeared above the city, Daniel turned to Lyra. "I feel like I already know you," he said. "Even if you hide, I see who you are." Lyra froze. She had not expected such insight. She looked down, unsure how to respond. Her species did not allow such openness, such understanding without proof. Yet here it was in the simple words of a human. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "you see more than I wish to show." "Perhaps," he replied, smiling. "Or perhaps I see what you wish someone to see." She looked at him, and for a moment the walls she had built around herself trembled. She had hidden to test him, to judge, to learn. Instead, she had been judged herself, not by power, not by threat, but by quiet understanding and trust. That night, Lyra sat by the window, watching the city lights. Daniel slept nearby, peaceful and calm. She thought about her empire, her duties, and the power she wielded. And she realized something that scared her more than any battle. She wanted to stay, to learn more, to trust more. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the quiet bond forming inside a small apartment. Two lives intertwined, one human, one alien, both learning that strength was not measured by power or dominance, but by patience, understanding, and the courage to care. And for the first time in her long life, Lyra felt that maybe humans were not weak at all. Maybe, in their simplicity and their quiet courage, they were stronger than any empire could imagine. And one human had already known her soul, even when she hid it the next morning dawned quietly, but Daniel felt a tension in the air. Small alerts from the city council blinked on his calm device. Something unusual was happening in the nearby districts. Minor disturbances, nothing dangerous, but enough to make people nervous. Daniel prepared quickly, gathering tools and supplies for any possible problems. Lyra moved beside him silently, already aware of what needed to be done. "Are you ready?" he asked, glancing at her. "Always," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes scanned the city with sharp focus. Daniel had noticed before that she seemed to see things humans could not. He trusted her instincts completely, though he did not yet understand how far her awareness went. They stepped outside and the streets were alive with movement. Drones zipped past, minor accidents were being repaired, and citizens moved quickly, some panicked, some calm. It was chaos in small doses. Lyra guided Daniel through the streets, quietly directing him to places where help was needed most. Their first stop was a collapsed power line. Sparks flew dangerously close to a small crowd. Daniel approached to help, but Lyra moved faster. She lifted a fallen cable effortlessly, moving it away from the civilians, her movements precise and smooth. Daniel watched, impressed but not surprised. He had already realized she was not an ordinary human. "You always know what to do," he said. "I only act when necessary," she replied. They worked together, helping people to safety, repairing minor damages and calming frightened citizens. Lyra's presence was calm and commanding without being harsh. People instinctively trusted her. Daniel realized that her strength was not just in her abilities, but in the way she carried herself. She could act with power, but she chose to act with care. After the first wave of minor disasters, they returned to a small street market. Vendors were shaken, but no one was hurt. Lyra moved through the stalls, helping repair broken stands and adjusting equipment. Her hands were quick and careful, almost like she could see the structure of everything at once. Daniel assisted her when he could, but he began to realize that she could handle situations far beyond what any human could manage. "How do you do it?" he asked quietly as they lifted a heavy crate together. "Experience," she said softly. She did not elaborate. Daniel did not press. He had learned to respect her silence. Sometimes words were unnecessary. Her actions spoke more than anything she could say. That afternoon, a council envoy arrived. He was a small, nervous man sent to observe their household and report back on the human-alien cooperation. Daniel welcomed him warmly, offering tea and a seat. Lyra moved quietly in the background, preparing simple refreshments with efficiency and grace. The envoy observed her closely, noting the calm in her movements, the way she adapted to situations without panic, and the quiet authority she carried. He scribbled notes about her abilities, her patience, and the way Daniel treated her with respect. It was clear to him that their household was not ordinary. After the envoy left, Daniel turned to Lyra. "They are watching," he said. "I am aware," she replied, adjusting a dish on the table. "Do you care what they think?" She paused. "No, their opinions do not matter. But their tests, they are designed to measure humans. You will face them whether I am here or not." Daniel nodded. "We will handle it together." Over the next few days, the council's tests became more noticeable. Minor crises were staged to see how Daniel and Lyra would respond. Small energy outages, sudden mechanical failures, and simulated threats tested their reactions. Daniel remained calm, helping others without panic. He moved with purpose, thinking clearly and protecting those around him. Lyra watched closely, not interfering unless necessary. When she did act, it was swift, efficient, and unseen by most. One evening, an energy storm threatened the district. Power fields flickered, and minor explosions occurred nearby. Citizens panicked, and some fled into unsafe areas. Daniel and Lyra moved quickly. He helped a small family navigate the chaos, while she redirected falling debris and neutralized dangerous energy lines. At one point, a large piece of debris fell toward Daniel. Lyra reacted instantly, catching it with her full strength and lifting it away. He looked at her astonished but calm. "You always save me," he said quietly. "I only protect what is necessary," she replied. Yet inside she felt a strange warmth. She had protected humans before, but protecting him felt different. She realized she cared for his safety more than she had expected. That night, as they returned to the apartment, Daniel cleaned minor scrapes and bruises. Lyra assisted silently, her touch careful and precise. She noticed how he never complained, how he quietly cared for everyone, and how he remained calm even under pressure. "Daniel," she said softly after a long pause, "why are you not afraid of me?" He looked at her, surprised. "Afraid of you? Why would I be afraid?" "I am stronger than you," she said, her voice low. "I am not human," he smiled gently. "I know, I have known for some time, but strength does not frighten me. Understanding and trust do more." She looked at him, stunned. He had seen her true nature without her revealing it fully. He had not judged her. He had not demanded answers. He simply trusted what he could observe. The realization shook her deeply. She had intended to test him, to judge him, but he had already seen her soul. Over the next week, more tests came. Minor threats in the city, staged emergencies, and council observers monitored their actions. Daniel remained calm, helping citizens, fixing problems, and guiding others. Lyra continued to act silently, intervening only when necessary. She realized that her role had shifted. She had come to observe him, but he was already teaching her about human courage, patience, and quiet strength. One evening, as they sat in the apartment, Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. "I think humans are stronger than most people believe," he said. Lyra nodded. "I see that now, not in battle or power, but in patience, care, and quiet courage." He smiled. "And you see that too. I notice how you act, how you protect, how you care, how you guide. You are strong too, Lyra, but in different ways." She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Her species did not feel emotions like humans did. Yet she realized she cared for him, not as an observer, but as someone who wanted to be near him. She had hidden to test him, but he had already understood her. The city faced a larger challenge next. A minor alien incursion appeared at the edge of the district. Ships hovered, scanning for threats. Daniel and Lyra moved together, assisting civilians and coordinating safety. Lyra acted with precision, neutralizing dangers silently, while Daniel directed people and solved problems calmly. At one point, a young child ran toward danger. Daniel rushed, but Lyra was faster. She scooped the child into her arms and moved them to safety. Daniel watched, realizing how much he trusted her instinctively. She did not need to tell him what to do. He knew that together they could face any danger. That night, as they returned to the apartment, they were both exhausted but unafraid. Daniel cleaned minor cuts and Lyra helped quietly. They did not speak much, but the silence was comfortable. It was a silence of trust, understanding, and quiet companionship. "You know me better than I expected," Lyra said softly. "And you know me," Daniel replied. "Even without words, even when hiding, you know who I am." She looked at him, feeling a strange mix of fear and warmth. She had hidden to test him, but now she realized that hiding was no longer necessary. He had already seen her. He had already understood her. And she could not hide from her own feelings any longer. The city slept outside, unaware of the quiet bond forming inside the apartment. Two lives, human and alien, intertwined. Both learning that strength was not measured by power alone, but by patience, understanding, and the courage to care. And one human had already known her soul. Even when she had hidden it, the morning air was heavy with tension. Alerts from the city council flashed across Daniel's comm device, showing multiple disturbances at once. He frowned and gathered his supplies. Lyra moved beside him silently, already aware of the situation before he even spoke. Her presence was calm but commanding, and Daniel felt a strange sense of confidence with her by his side. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, glancing at her. "I have always been ready," she replied. Her voice was soft, yet there was a steel underneath it that made him trust her even more. Together, they stepped into the streets. The city was alive with chaos. Small energy fields flickered and failed, drones buzzed overhead, and civilians ran in panic from small fires and collapsing structures. Daniel moved quickly, helping where he could, directing people to safety and calming those who were afraid. He had faced crises before, but he had never faced anything like this with an alien presence by his side that was both hidden and powerful. Lyra moved silently through the chaos, her hands and body guiding danger away without drawing attention. She redirected falling debris, stabilized unstable structures, and quietly protected civilians from harm. She did not use her full power. She restrained herself, wanting to act only when necessary. "This is more than a test," Daniel said, noticing the intensity of the situation. "Something bigger is happening. It is designed to see how humans act under pressure," Lyra replied, "but it has grown beyond the Council's control." A sudden explosion rocked the street. Debris flew toward a group of civilians. Daniel rushed forward instinctively, but Lyra was faster. She caught the debris with one hand and lifted it away from the people. Her strength was immense, but she did not flaunt it. She moved with precision and care. Daniel watched, impressed and unafraid, trusting her completely. "You are incredible," he said softly. "I only do what must be done," she replied, but inside she felt a strange warmth. She realized she cared for him more than she had expected. Protecting him had become different from protecting strangers. The disturbances spread across the city and more dangers appeared. Rogue drones malfunctioned, small fires spread, and a minor energy storm approached from the north. Daniel and Lyra worked together seamlessly. He guided people, repaired minor systems, and coordinated with emergency teams. She intervened silently when the risk was too great, protecting lives without anyone noticing. At one point, a massive energy spike threatened the central district. Power lines arced dangerously and civilians panicked. Daniel moved to assist, but Lyra grabbed his arm and pulled him to safety. She then stepped forward, raising her hands. Energy surged around her, forming a protective barrier that stabilized the area. Sparks danced in the air and a soft hum of power filled the street. Civilians looked around in awe, not understanding what had happened but safe. Daniel approached her, his eyes wide but calm. "Lyra, you are not hiding anymore, are you?" She shook her head, her usual calm expression softening. "I cannot hide when lives are at stake." He nodded, understanding more than words could express. He had known her secret for some time, and now it was fully revealed. He did not fear her, nor was he impressed in the way most would be. He simply trusted her and accepted her. "You could have hurt me," she said quietly. "I am not just human." "I know," he replied softly, "and I am not afraid. You are showing me who you truly are, and I trust you." For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to feel fully. She released the restraint she had kept for centuries. Energy crackled around her, and she moved with her full strength, stabilizing the city and protecting everyone. The storm subsided, fires were controlled, and the chaos ended. Civilians cheered quietly, not knowing who had saved them. Daniel looked at her with calm admiration, not awe, not fear, only understanding. Later, as the city quieted, they returned to the apartment. Lyra was exhausted, but she moved silently, cleaning minor debris and checking the systems. Daniel watched her, noticing the small gestures that showed care even in exhaustion. "You saved so many lives today," he said softly, "and yet you remain calm, humble, and gentle." "It is necessary," she replied. "Power without care is dangerous. Strength without understanding is destruction." He nodded. "You understand humans more than most aliens ever could, and yet you still hide parts of yourself." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the city lights outside. "I hid to test you, to see if you were worthy of trust, but you already knew my soul, even when I concealed it. That terrifies me more than any enemy ever could." Daniel smiled gently. Trust is not given by force or power. It is earned, yes, but sometimes it is recognized without words. I have always seen you, Lyra, even when you tried to hide. Her chest tightened. She realized that all her plans to judge him had been useless. He had already seen who she was, and he had accepted her completely. She felt something unfamiliar, a warmth in her chest, a desire to remain close to him, not as an empress to a human, but as herself. The next days brought calm, but the memory of the storm lingered. Daniel returned to his routines, helping neighbors, repairing minor systems, and quietly caring for his city. Lyra stayed by his side, no longer hiding her nature. She moved with care, guided by both instinct and trust. She tested herself, seeing how well she could protect humans without revealing her full power unnecessarily. She found joy in small victories, in the quiet moments of connection, and in the trust she now shared with Daniel. One evening, as they watched the city lights from the balcony, Daniel spoke softly. Lyra, the council believes this is a test for me. They think I am being judged, but I feel something different. It is as if we are teaching each other. She nodded. I thought I came here to judge humans, to understand them. Instead, I am learning from you. Patience, courage, trust, and something else I did not expect. Love? He asked gently. She froze, unsure how to respond. Her species did not feel love the same way humans did. Yet she realized she cared for him in ways she had never known. She realized she wanted to stay, not because of duty or obligation, but because of connection, understanding, and trust. Perhaps, she whispered, but it is not simple. It is new. He reached for her hand and she allowed him to hold it. The touch was light, gentle, and comforting. She felt a strange warmth, a connection she had never experienced before. We are stronger together, he said softly, not because of power, but because we trust each other. She looked at him, and for the first time in her long life, Lyra felt vulnerable. Not in fear, but in the possibility of connection. She had hidden to test him, to protect herself, and to understand humans. Now she realized that hiding was no longer necessary. He had already seen her, and he had accepted her completely. The city slept outside, unaware of the bond that had deepened inside a small apartment. Two lives intertwined, one human, one alien, both learning that true strength was not measured by power alone, but by patience, understanding, and the courage to care. And one human had known her soul even when she tried to hide it, proving to her that trust and understanding could be stronger than any empire or power. The morning was quiet, but the city hummed with energy. After the storm and the disturbances, life returned slowly to normal. Daniel moved through the streets, helping neighbors repair minor damages, checking on those who had been frightened, and quietly ensuring that the city functioned smoothly again. Lyra walked beside him, her presence calm and reassuring. She no longer hid her strength, but she also did not flaunt it. She moved with care, balancing power with gentleness, guiding him when needed and supporting him silently. The council will come soon, Daniel said, glancing at the small alerts on his comm. They will want reports. They will want to judge the city, me and you, Lyra nodded. I know, but I am not concerned. The city is safe and we have done what is right, he smiled. I am not concerned either. They may judge us, but we know the truth. We acted with care, not for recognition or approval. The council envoy arrived that afternoon, accompanied by several observers. They were dressed in their formal uniforms, expressions polite but careful. They moved through the streets, taking notes and scanning the city. Lyra and Daniel walked beside them, guiding them to the sites that had been most affected. The observers whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. They had expected disorder, panic, and chaos. Instead, they saw calm coordination, quiet courage, and cooperation. They watched as Daniel helped children cross streets safely, as Lyra stabilized fallen structures without a word, and as both of them worked together seamlessly. One of the envoys, a tall man with a thin face, stopped and studied Lyra. Your efficiency, your control, it is remarkable. We expected chaos, but instead we see calm and order. Daniel smiled quietly. We did what was necessary. We do not act for show, only for people's safety. Lyra said nothing, but the observers noticed the subtle power in her movements, the quiet confidence, and the care she showed for everyone around her. They scribbled notes rapidly. Some glanced at each other, surprised that humans and this alien worked together so naturally. After the inspection, they gathered in the small apartment where Daniel and Lyra lived. The observers prepared their report, speaking cautiously. They expected to dictate lessons, to criticize, to control. Instead, they found themselves listening. They saw how humans, even in small numbers, showed strength through patience, courage, and understanding. They saw how an alien, powerful and proud, could choose care over dominance, trust over fear. One of the envoys asked Lyra directly, "Why did you not reveal your true nature sooner?" She looked at him calmly. "I hid to see the human, to understand him. I wanted to know if he was worthy of trust, but he already knew me. He always knew me, even when I tried to hide." The envoys exchanged looks, shocked. In their empire, power and status were proof of strength, but here, understanding and trust were stronger than any display of force. Daniel spoke softly, looking at Lyra. "Hiding is not necessary when trust is earned. She has always been honest in her actions, even when words were not spoken. She has shown what real strength is." Lyra's eyes met his. She felt warmth in her chest, a mixture of pride, relief, and something more she had never experienced. She had hidden to test him, to judge, to understand humans. Instead, she had learned from him, and he had never doubted her. He had already known her soul, even when she tried to hide it. The envoys turned their attention to the city, impressed by the cooperation, courage, and patience they witnessed. They recorded everything carefully, realizing that humans were stronger than they had ever assumed. It was not raw power that made them formidable, but the quiet strength in their hearts. Lyra finally spoke to Daniel privately. "I came to this world to judge humans," she said softly, "to see their weaknesses. Instead, I found strength. And I found something I never expected. I care for you," he looked at her gently. "And I care for you, not as an alien, not as a ruler, but as someone who walks beside me. We are partners in this, Lyra, in trust, in care, in understanding." She felt her chest tighten. Emotions she had never known swelled inside her. She realized she wanted to stay with him, not out of obligation or duty, but because she had chosen to. She had learned that connection, understanding, and care were more powerful than any empire or law. The council observers finally prepared their report to send back to their leaders. They wrote of courage, of trust, of patience, and of the strength that humans carried quietly. They noted Lyra's guidance and care, but they focused on Daniel's calm, steady actions, showing that humans could rise to challenges with intelligence and heart. Once the observers left, Daniel and Lyra returned to the quiet of their apartment. The city outside glimmered with lights, the hum of life continuing. They sat together on the balcony, side by side, watching the stars begin to appear. "The council will change their minds," Daniel said softly. "They will see that humans are not weak. They will respect what we have done," Lyra nodded. "And they will learn that strength is not always power, but patience, understanding, and trust." He reached for her hand, and she allowed him to hold it. The touch was gentle, reassuring, and warm. She realized that she had never felt anything like this in her long life. Trust, care, connection, and the courage to share one's heart. These were human strengths, and she had come to value them more than any law, any power, or any title. "We have changed more than they know," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "We have shown them a better way, and we have shown each other." The days passed peacefully. Life in the city returned to normal. Minor repairs were completed, neighbors smiled again, and routines resumed. Lyra and Daniel worked together, quietly guiding, helping, and living side by side. They shared simple meals, small conversations, and long walks. The bond between them grew stronger not because of obligation but because of choice. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Daniel spoke softly. "Do you remember when you first arrived?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. I came to test, to observe, to judge. I hid my true self from you." "And yet," he said, smiling, "I already knew you. I saw who you were even when you tried to hide it. That was the beginning, and now we are here together." She looked at him, feeling a warmth in her chest she could not name. She realized that her mission, her duties, and even her empire's expectations were no longer her only concerns. She had found something she had never expected: trust, understanding, and love. She had found a human who had already seen her soul, and she had chosen to stay. "Together," she whispered. "Together," he replied. The galaxy beyond their city hummed with life, unaware that the story of one human and one alien had already begun to change how worlds thought of strength, courage, and trust. The Council would learn that humans were formidable not because of weapons or force, but because of their hearts. And Lyra would learn that power was best when guided by care, understanding, and connection. In the quiet apartment, the two sat side by side, watching the stars, holding hands, and feeling the warmth of trust and companionship. The city slept peacefully, and the world had changed a little for the better, because one human had already known an alien Empress's soul, and the Empress had chosen to reveal it. And in that simple act of understanding, care, and trust, the galaxy learned a truth far stronger than any law: that real power was not taken but given, not forced but shared, and not measured by titles but by the courage to care and the wisdom to understand. Daniel and Lyra remained together, their bond unbroken, their hearts open, and their future a promise not written by councils or empires, but by their choice, their trust, and their love. The stars twinkled above, quiet witnesses to a human and an alien, teaching the galaxy that strength could be gentle, trust could be powerful, and one soul could see another, even when all else was hidden. And so their story continued, not as ruler and subject, not as human and alien, but as partners, equals, and guardians of each other's hearts.